If you need the water, check the beaches in the Carolinas. If you need the mountains, try the Appalachian Trail. If you need the redwood trees, gotta go to Yosemite. If you need me, 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 I'll be in Kansas City.
Welcome to Kansas City Limits Radio. Today we've got in the studio the known, renowned Kansas City Tracer Heights Band. We've got a three trio here. The Psychedelic Brothers stopped by to see us. Welcome to the studio, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
We're so glad you could pause your day to come check out what's going on here at Kansas City Limits.
Absolutely.
Really looking forward to talking to you today.
So there's lots of bands in Kansas City, but you guys seem to draw a crowd. A huge crowd, it seems. They love what you're doing. You guys have been doing it since you guys were talking 2015.
Yeah, so about eight years,
Almost
9 years?
eight.
Coming up on 8 years.
Coming
I
up on
think.
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years.
It's been a good ride so far.
Now, trying to find the right fit is probably the hardest thing. It's you almost got to kind of read each other's minds.
Oh, absolutely.
When it comes to the radio. But before we get into that, we want to thank our sponsors here real quick. We'd like to thank Kansas City RVs, consignment, purchase, lease, go exploring, Kansas City RVs. We want to thank the Midwest Music Foundation, Area Musicians Promotional Resource, the AMPR, Black Moon Media, our TV editor and sponsor and provider of the Kansas City Limits TV program. We want to thank Briarcliff Business Partner Alliance, a networking group donating its money since 2009 to local charities, and Briarfest 8 coming up September 8th and 9th at Mackin Park, North Kansas City. We want to thank Frank and Mary at knuckleheadskc.com and all they do for us. Kansas City Limits TV and radio, they are right now showcasing everyone in Kansas City that's original music. We want to thank Soundworks Recording Studio right here in Blue Springs, Summit Video, S&S Printing, B4 Productions, and as I mentioned, Midwest Music Foundation, helping out musicians when they have that gap between their medical expenses and the rest of the world that needs their money for something they obviously didn't predict. Anyway, back to the studio. We're so happy today we've got Tracer Heights in the studio, and we were just leading off on that improvisational approach to music.
I like it. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because most of the time when we get on stage, we don't know what's going to happen. And that's like that's like one of the funnest things that I get to experience is that I get up there and I'm like, what's going to happen? And, I look at the guys and I'm like, I don't know. And so I'm like, okay, let's see what happens.
So is that 90% of the way you kind of know the genre what you're going to do, but you're going to let the music take you somewhere?
Well, we have original music that we're trying to, promote here in Kansas City, and we like to take it from kind of a standpoint where we have a skeleton of what we might even come up with a set list, but then much like a lot of jam bands, that set list will kind of go by the wayside sometimes because you're just like, the audience, I'm feeling something different, or let's have something that's got more energy to it, or something that brings the energy down a little bit, that's more spacey, and it just depends.
So you're almost kind of setting the mood with the song to the vibration you guys are putting in the song. So in that improv, you're a composer with your song, creating the mood out there.
Yeah, I think that's really the goal is, so you've got your song, it might have a verse, a chorus, a bridge. There's like the studio version of it, but after that second chorus, maybe there's a 5-10 minute section that is just the song is the jumping off point for a section of music. The ultimate goal would be, it almost seems like you're composing something spontaneously just by playing off each other.
I'm pretty sure that Garcia and Hunter intended that as well in every song that they ever wrote. I mean,
yes, they did.
That's exactly how they lived it.
They kind of invented the multi-genre colliding of genres in one set.
Yes.
They kind of took the traditional bluegrass formula with the soloing and the blues rock formula, and they kind of just combined them, and they kind of owe it all
Jeremy.
to them.
On that, real quick, again, it's we're here with Tracer Heights today, and fellas, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
So we have, well, I'll let you guys go ahead, give out your names and what you do for the band. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So my name is Jeremy Clark, and I play bass guitar and a little bit of vocals for this band. Yep.
My name is Joshua Pohl, and I play all the drums and hand percussion, do some lead vocals and backup vocals.
I'm Ben Hoppus. I'm the banjo player. I play both rhythm and lead, and I do a lot of composition and songwriting. And that's something that these guys didn't mention, which I'm surprised. All of us write songs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. It's like we all
we
have
do
lyrics together.
Yeah, after 8 years, all three of
you
those
write songs like Garcia and Hunter. I mean, is that
it all
kind
depends.
of?
It all
I
depends
was
on where
going to
it
ask,
comes
were you
from.
guys improvising before you met each other? Were you guys doing your own separate things and then came together?
Well, me and Jeremy, we were in a band for about 5 years, just together. But it was a blues band. It was a very strict, very structured blues band,
Yeah.
where we couldn't do anything except for
Track world.
Yes, it's what I call it, the barbecue circuit.
Right.
It's just you have to adhere to this strict,
Lindsay
formula
Shannon.
for everything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And after we left them, we were like, why don't we just get together and we'll just play whatever we want. And we started working. What was that one song? I think we tried Into the Mystic.
Yeah,
once.
I remember Into the Mystic was an exercise we went through because I always liked the bass line and just a groovy song, So let's get together
I love
and
Van Morrison.
just jam on that a little bit.
Yeah, we started playing with that, and then I think that kind of woke us up and was like, wait a minute, we can do whatever the hell we want. You know what I mean? I was like, okay,
It's
this
unlimited.
is cool.
There are no rules.
I wasn't a
No
part of the
rules.
group at the time. I was actually playing with another cover band here in Kansas City called Half Price Buddha for a number of years.
Kick ass.
No, it was a fun group.
Not
Set
Little
up.
Buddha, but half
Half
price
price
Buddha.
Buddha.
I
Yes.
dig it.
So
I heard that's
You
still
were with them
going
for a
on.
long time too. That was
I was with them for about 13 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
They had a good run. Yeah,
We had a
That's
really
a great
good run. Basically, what I was doing was playing all of the drums on a djembe hand drum and a cajon box instead of a drum set. So I didn't really play drum set with that band at all. And I ran into Jeremy and had a chance to jam with Jeremy. And Jeremy asked me, he's like, "Hey, you ever think about doing a different band? I got a buddy that plays banjo, and he's really, good, and we want to do, jam band stuff just like you do. They know that I like Fish, I like the Grateful Dead, I like jam bands quite a bit." And so the three of us finally got together and played, but not after I saw a video of this man. When he introduced me to him, he was playing, he was just shredding the banjo. I'm like, this is the coolest thing, but he was wearing this mask that looked straight out of the movie from Saw.
Who? Ben was?
Ben
That was
was.
me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy wants me to join a band. He's wearing a mask.
Yeah,
and
what's the deal with the
I
mask?
don't,
What's
I
that
don't
about?
understand what the deal is with the mask. But
Was that Halloween?
when you would listen to the way that he played the banjo, it was just like, oh my gosh, this could be a lot of fun. And so when we started playing and it became more of a natural beat for Ben as opposed to like a drum machine that he had been using for so many years looping, playing solo in Kansas City, I like to think it came alive.
Is that mask thing like a Daft Punk?
I don't know what
You
it was.
know?
Oh my God. I was young. I was just very I
The
was
key
just
is
trying
never to take the mask off. You realize that?
Right. Well, I was just trying to. I think at the time I was just
That's
trying to.
Gene Simmons.
Oh, that's right.
I was trying to find like who am I? What
Who
am I
are you?
doing? Yeah, because I was playing out. I was doing.
How
this-
old were you at this time?
I was in my 20s. What 20?
Everyone's trying to figure it out in the 20s.
23,
Probably
Yeah,
early 20s.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, I was just trying anything and everything, and I got inspired by Buckethead actually.
Really?
And I was like trying to do all the shredding stuff, and that's kind of my thing. Is like I like guitar shredders like from the 80s, like
Sure.
Paul Gilbert, Slash. Those guys are my main like.
Lose a finger.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. Right. And I saw Buckethead. I was like, oh, that looks like fun. And I put together this video with 2 different shots, and I was able to record directly into the PC, and it was like one microphone on one amp, and then I had my
Right.
looper, and I blended it together and it became like this really weird, like greenish horror show of this, just me playing banjo. I was wearing like the bunny suit you wear in surgery.
Okay.
And then the crazy mask. If you guys
Okay.
want to check it out, it's actually called
I definitely want to check it out.
Where's that at?
it's still on YouTube. It's called Heavy Electric Banjo.
Heavy electric banjo.
Heavy Electric
I better write
Banjo.
that down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
he's got to see that.
It's funny to think back of I didn't really, it was normal to me at the time because I had known Ben for a while and
Sure.
knew all of his different facets. But thinking back, I didn't really think it through, I guess, sending it to Josh, having never met the man.
Like there was no like
different.
description ahead of time. Like he doesn't look like this all the time.
yeah.
He's like, this is my
Just
friend.
context.
He plays banjo. Okay, cool. Play.
Yeah.
He's putting
What
in
is
some
that?
borders.
Your friend is crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I love that story.
It was one video. It was so funny because I just did that one video. I did end up doing a sequel. It's not as creepy and crazy, but yeah, it's Heavy Electric Banjo on YouTube.
I like to say that, so that's the thing about Ben that has always stuck out to me. Like, he chose the banjo when he was a teenager. That's just the instrument he plays. It doesn't matter what kind of music he likes or wants to do. He's going to do it with that banjo. So
Okay.
if he gets into 80s shredding, he's going to do it with the banjo. I've always said if he had just like accidentally maybe happened to choose like something else, like the accordion, he'd probably be trying to shred it like Buckethead with
He
the
could do
accordion.
he could
It's
do
just
anything.
that's his instrument. Yeah, it
He
doesn't
can do
matter.
he can do anything on the banjo. Like a couple of the covers we do, you wouldn't even think would be done on the banjo. U2,
Sweet
Guns
Child
N'
of Mine.
Roses, yeah.
Guns N' Roses, The Cure.
Wow.
I mean, just some crazy stuff. It's just that he does not play it. Doesn't play it like you typically would think somebody would play the banjo. It's fantastic.
And keeping people's
Thanks.
attention, I'm sure that keeps people's attention.
It grabs their attention
Yeah,
for sure.
they're
'Cause
interested in like, what is this he's comprising of a song we've heard 10,000 ways never through a banjo.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's a huge challenge sometimes. Like we do some Fish covers, and those songs, some of those songs that Trey Anastasio composes, they're hard on guitar. They're like difficult to play on guitar, and here I am transposing it to a standard tuned open G banjo.
Mhm.
And it's just that extra layer of challenge that I have to break through. And there's sometimes where I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't do it, And then I'll slam a couple of Red Bulls and sit down and just like dive into it, focus my ADHD laser on it. And
You should send some of that to Trey. Let him be the judge.
that'd be hilarious.
That'd be interesting.
You stare at your
actually,
banjo and you
definitely.
go, I will bend you to make this sound.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you do what I say now. I am the master now.
Let's talk a little bit about you guys are in Kansas City. You're performing quite a bit. You're from this area. We asked this of all the bands we've had the chance and the privilege of interviewing. Tell us just in a few words the Kansas City music scene, what it is now, where you think it's going, and where was it, say, before COVID versus now?
Wow. I guess
Big
I could
question.
start with that. That is a fantastic question. Before COVID, I think that the scene was pretty robust in terms of how much music you could find, the way people were going out to it. A lot of people doing traveling, like we traveled and did regional work in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska. So we had our times out of town too to try to raise up the awareness of what we're doing and try to gain more fans out of town. I think that a lot of the scene that I see right now after COVID is the tribute band. I think the tribute bands are very large pulls here in town. I think a lot of the audience in here wants to live a nostalgic
Yeah, I was
life.
going to ask you, why do you think that is?
I think it's just the nostalgia of it.
And familiar,
Comfort.
Familiar. People
comfort.
want to hear a
Comfort's a
song
good
that
word,
they
man.
know. When
like mac and cheese?
Yes.
Yeah.
People
Comfortable.
want something that is familiar to them. And
Well,
it's
as
easier.
a venue owner,
Yeah.
certainly they're going to be draws, and Mike Kelly, who is
Our
an old
home away from
deadhead.
home.
That's right. He's an old deadhead himself, right? But look at Frank at Nux. I mean, he just booked 2 dead bands to come and play, at Knuckleheads, and not that he hadn't before, but because they're generating the fan base, they're
Yes.
paying at the door, they're paying online. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't go particularly out to see a lot of tribute bands unless it's, a dead band.
Yeah,
I guess.
right.
But I mean, there's something there because these guys know, and they've both been doing it over 20 years. So there's obviously something there to the pull for those guys.
Where I'd like to see it go, though, it's just besides the tribute bands, is bands like ourselves that are original, bands like the Supermassive Black Holes that are original, Caveman
Great
Television that are original, MGDs that are original.
Yes.
I mean, there's some great music here in town that people maybe just don't get a chance to listen to because it's not familiar. But don't let that stop you, because the music that you ended up falling in love with, that wasn't familiar when you first started listening
No,
to
it started somewhere.
Well said, Joshua.
Yeah.
And the other two of you, share with us your thoughts on the Kansas City music scene.
I would say that it's a very kind scene, is what I would call it. Like, as far as the brotherhood and sisterhood of musicians in town, how they welcome each other to all the open jam nights, and you can network really easily. But you mentioned the COVID thing. I feel like we've lost a lot of venues. Right now, it just seems like before there were a lot more places to play. Now it's kind of like each venue is just worth their weight in gold. Like, it's just a very precious thing. So I'm happy that the ones that have pulled through, it kind of shows their toughness. Like Mike Kelly, you mentioned, the fact that he was able to survive through that is just a testament to that.
And
place.
during,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like the Nace brothers and Bob Walkenhurst doing, stuff to pay
Podcast.
they were doing videos,
Exactly.
shows, and all that money was
We
going
did a
towards
live
the
stream
staff.
and put all the money into the waitresses and the bar staff at.
That's why those guys made it.
Yeah.
I mean, and Nux, that's where you did a Briar Fest,
I mean,
right?
when COVID was coming down the pipeline, I couldn't afford to take the gamble to pay for the whole festival. So I reached out to Frank and I said, I gave a couple of these bands some deposits already. I'm going to let them keep the money. Do you want to use them because you're getting ready to open up? And he goes, what are the dates? I said, June 12th and 13th. And this was Briar Fest 5. It was Briar Fest 6. And he said, well, you can just have my place for 2 days. I said, really?
Wow.
So he gave us his place for 2 days, and we streamed it, and we gave Mimi's Pantry in Riverside $10,300 during
nice.
COVID. So
Nice.
Oh, wow.
that was Briar Fest. And then the next year we thought we had Lightning, and we did it again, but that was the same weekend everyone released and did everything that same weekend. And so then now we're going to move it back to an open field and free to come to. So
That's great.
And it's interesting seeing how it kind of felt to me like it did take an extra year or two for things to really start to feel normal again. I think we're at that point now. So we're excited to play Briar Fest this year, and
we're at that point, but even like today, I was in some environments, and as soon as I got my car, I put on my sanitizer. I don't think I'll ever stop having
It
that
did
problem.
change.
You get used to it.
Change
Yeah.
things.
It's sitting at my desk. I have a whole bottle of it, man.
Yeah, I
Why-
didn't-
why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The self-awareness of how things spread has really...
It's on the forefront of your
it's
mind.
solid now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't
Well,
want to
this is something else that we talked about coming out of COVID. I think it was Drew 6. We were talking
Yeah,
a
Drew
little
talked
bit
about it quite a bit. And so did Deanne.
Yeah, and differences that you found, like you said, venues aren't as abundant. The multi-bands, or bands playing for multi-dates, you don't see that a whole lot. But, I mean, when I saw you guys last summer over at Woodyards, right? You were part of a bill that included 2 other bands, right?
Yeah.
It was
Pop Skull Rebels and Strawbillies.
And
is who we
Strawbillies.
played with. Yeah.
And I was there to see, Jim and Teardrop, right? But got to see you guys perform, which it was the first time I ever got to see you. So, one of the reasons you're here today, it was outstanding. I got to run into you guys. And it was a good place. It was a good scene. And you guys shared 45-minute sets
it
or
was
so?
just one set
Yeah.
for each group.
About 45 minutes.
But even with that, you guys set up, and the lights. And then that led me to last fall. I mean, when you go to Mike's, I don't know who in the band is spending the time and the money on these lights, but let's talk about this light show that you guys have for Tracer Heights.
Sure. Yeah, that's me. And then, this is Ben Hoppus.
Thanks, Ben.
All right.
I didn't want to announce you because I wasn't quite sure on the pronunciation
It's
of
a
Hoppus.
Hoppus. Yeah, I know. It's
you
kind
got
of
it
a
now.
weird pronunciation of it. Nobody gets it right. So I
Okay.
don't mind. Yeah, it was funny. The way the lights started was kind of by accident. We were doing one of our like mini tours going up north, and we played this little place. It was Iowa Falls, right?
Yeah, Iowa Falls.
That's where
I
we
got the
play
city
there.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did.
And it was just this little place in the middle of cornfields or soy fields or whatever it was. And there's this little square, and the square is just like this bar, right? And it's really close to like a college, so it's almost like this college hangout place. So we were playing there, and it was like kind of packed. It was actually pretty happening little spot in the middle of the corn, you know? And the owner had some lights set up, and he had a foot switch. And the foot switch, you can scroll through, you can go up and down through different presets, and then you can do a blackout where it just turns them all off. And so we're performing, and the whole time I'm just like switching the lights with my feet. I'm like, this is pretty freaking cool. I'm running lights and playing, you know? So I'm doing that, and it turned into like this whole production just out of nowhere, just because we're playing, and I could improv with both the lights and the music. And I was like, that's wild, you know? And when we got back, we actually it was the first time we got one of the trees. These Dragon X, you know,
Yeah, like
Light
$100
trees.
bucks.
yeah, real inexpensive, not very much, but it had 2 foot switches where you can go up, you can scroll through different presets, and then one that's a blackout. So I started practicing with that and got kind of good at it. So we got a second set of tree, and we set it up to where I just have 1 foot switch for each of those. And I started like just really getting into it. And I was like, this could be bigger. And what was funny is the pedals actually died. Like they quit working. I'm like, crap. So I need to find a way to like control these. And I found this thing. It's called a Bigfoot by Eurolight. And it's an actual DMX foot switch controller that, you know, has, you know, you can scroll through different banks and you can program different fixtures. And it was like, you know, what you would think of a DMX light controller, but in a foot switch.
Okay.
And instead of faders, it actually has expression pedals. I was like, this is wild. I could do way more than this, right? So I started doing that. And then I got a couple of movers, like actually, you know, little ADJ pocket spots, right? Super cheap, not very expensive at all, right? And I could actually like move them around and actually have this big production where I'm controlling everything with my feet while I'm playing. It's the wildest thing. And then
Awesome.
But yes, he does shred the banjo and do the lights all in sync.
When
at the
Joshua
same
goes
time.
into space, I guess that's a lot of fun with the lights, though, too.
Oh
huh?
yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah,
great.
because then I can kind of free up myself and just do lights. You
Nice.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, just our music goes so well with
The lights.
crazy lights moving around
I totally
in sync,
agree with that. Yes.
and it's just they go together, and it
Well,
is
now,
great.
Now I understand, because you got somebody who's got a little rhythm in there
Mhm.
playing, well, rhythm lights.
Yeah,
you
and
know.
people don't always know that it's one of the musicians controlling it. They'll say, "Who was running lights? Do they
It's
really know
something
your
different.
music?"
I didn't. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
It's
Now,
something different, you
do
know.
both trees have the same colors?
Well, they're separate, so I could have, you know, I could have one side have, you know, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. The other side have red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, and then have them like switched where it's
Oh,
blue,
yeah.
red, blue, red, blue, red. I can change them really however I want individually through those different pars, and it's like then I've got the front washes that I can change the color of the band. Like the band can change colors,
Mhm.
and you know, it's all pretty separate, like in terms of programming.
How big is this total component? Like are your lights all spread out across your stage area that you guys are playing? Is that how that's set up?
I had a couple of different arrays, like where I have one where there's 8 pars, just the solid lights that are all lined up on the back of us.
Okay.
And then I've got the 2 front washes on each side of the stage. That way we're all lit and everything. And then we have that. But then I've also done where I have the 8 pars like kind of at a V shape.
Okay.
So it kind of sticks out a little bit more. It kind of depends on the venue. Like if it's a smaller stage, you know, they're going to be more squished in. So
But it's a
that'll be
half
more-
hour setup. It's not an all day thing.
It might be
No.
more of an hour.
It's more like an hour.
about an
and a
hour
half.
setup. I mean,
Yeah.
you got hazers as well too, which
Yeah.
create the reason why it's behind us is just like any jam band. He's got it perfectly synced where it creates these tubes of light around us because the hazer on stage is creating, you know, all those
See the
tubes.
beams.
Now the other Grateful Dead bands that I've been around, they don't have a light show like that I've
No.
seen. They just
No.
got still photography.
Better Off Dead started with one the other night,
Yeah.
man. I'll tell you what.
Did they?
Yeah,
They got lasers now.
we're setting the trend. You know?
Yeah,
setting
and
the
I've been
trend.
trying to help too, because it's funny because Billy Melv,
Sure.
He was asking about the haze,
Right.
and he was like, "Man, my fog machine sucks. It's like it just belts out like a big cloud of smoke and then it goes away. It's terrible and it stinks. And it's like, how do you do it? Well, I make my own haze fluid. I actually
Mr.
learned
Genius.
how to do it.
Wow.
And
Mr. Genius over here.
you drink it?
You can.
Is
You
it
can.
purple?
It's not purple. Not yet.
Okay.
I'm still working on the formula for that one.
Okay.
No, I mean, all it is vegetable glycerin and distilled water.
Wow.
That's all it is. And then you adjust the ratios to where if it's going to be an outdoor setting, you want it a lot thicker.
Okay.
But if it's an indoor kind of a smaller session, you want it a lot thinner. So it's
Man,
like
that
you,
is
you
freaking
have
awesome.
to adjust.
So I can
You know, we
We need
attest
to get
that
that
Billy
guy for
listened to him.
Briarfest.
I'm telling you,
It's
he would
cheap.
be great.
I
It
know.
is so cheap.
I-
It's not expensive.
I could attest, that Billy actually used it at their show on Friday night
Wow.
and created
Oh,
a
BOD.
YouTube.
the haze worked.
Yeah, the haze
Can,
worked.
can we
Sweet.
talk
I'm
you
happy
into
to help. I'm
Can we
happy to
talk
help.
you into setting it up at Briarfest?
Hell, gosh, yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
By the way, his lighting company is called Vermilion Lighting
Yeah.
Company.
Vermilion Lighting.
Yeah, I do actually have
love
a Facebook page.
This
for
is a
it.
guy that can be hired for your shows, so don't forget that. Vermilion Lighting.
Vermilion.
Well, and that's the thing
That's
I think
Ben
about
Hoppus.
being
Ben
in
Hoppus.
a
Vermilion
indie,
Lighting.
you can call it independent band, whatever you want to call it. You have to wear a lot of hats. You have to be your own PR person. You have to be
Yes.
your own graphics person,
Absolutely.
sound,
Yes.
lights, and you have to play. So,
Yes.
it almost seems like sometimes you're tired by the time you start the show, but it's worth it. We want
But we
to put
each
on
carry-
quality shows.
Yeah, we each carry our own
each have our own load,
specific little thing that we do. Like I do all the promotion, the video, and he does a lot of promotion and
Sound.
booking and sound, and he does, a lot of the promotion and booking and lights. And so we all kind of have our area. Like I used to be in advertising and public relations with my dad, and so I kind of
Here in Kansas City.
I just kind of approached it that way. We actually had a agency here in Blue Springs. I was just talking to Andy about that earlier.
Oh, nice.
So you guys spread it out pretty evenly amongst the three of you. You feel,
try
right?
to.
Yeah.
We try,
That's
yeah.
cool. That's cool.
So Joshua, your drums percussion, right?
That's correct.
You set out any bongos, anything like that, in addition to just the drums?
It depends upon what the show is. Our stripped down version of us, I can have a cajon and a djembe, which are typically
Yeah.
it's a djembe, not congas that I play.
Stage size, I'm sure, comes
right.
into play.
Right. And sometimes it's just a mini set rather than the entire setup like I normally have,
Yeah.
with softer rock sticks. It just, it really depends. But like if I'm going to set up a hand drum, and I do every once in a while, it's a djembe.
And Ben, as far as instruments go, besides the banjo, any other instruments you're playing?
Not live. I do play acoustic guitar, but that's kind of a private thing.
it's a personal
It's
thing.
kind of my own thing. Yeah.
And then Jeremy, you're the guitar man, right?
Electric bass. I'd play bass.
Electric
I don't,
bass.
and I haven't worked in the upright bass quite yet, but I would
Okay.
like to in the future. But yeah,
We'll
primarily
get you
just
with our good friend Chase.
Oh, I know. He's amazing. I was
Holy
just watching
Chase
him
is cool.
online yesterday.
He's a monkey.
Yeah.
He climbs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I do electric bass and vocals.
Cool.
Okay.
And where did this banjo come from? Just backing up to that just a second ago. So, of all the instruments, you met them, you were already playing banjo,
Mhm.
but where did the actual physical instrument come from? Did you find it in Uncle Willie's cabinet? Was it bestowed upon you upon someone
Steve
dying?
Martin.
Where was it?
Well, are you talking about like my reasoning for playing banjo?
Well, like
or-
at what moment in your life did you meet Mr. Banjo and decide he's your buddy?
Oh, that was weird.
See, that's what I want to know.
yeah.
Tell me the weird shit.
Weird is good.
Weird is very good.
Well,
Give the story to us.
growing up, country music, bluegrass,
Okay.
old music, like you think Merle Haggard, you think Hank Williams, that kind of stuff.
Hank, the Fence, the Lose.
Band
Yes.
in my house,
Carter's. Yes.
not allowed in my house.
Why? Was it the devil music?
No, apparently my mom's parents apparently tortured her with it. I don't know why.
Oh, just the opposite.
Yeah,
Clockwork
so
Orange with the
it
banjo.
was not allowed. Yeah, none of that.
Yeah.
It was like this twangy, nasty thing that she
Oh.
she heard it. She thought she was going to throw up. So it was, and then my parents split, right? And it was
Ah.
just me, my dad, my siblings. And so you know how that goes. Broken families. It's like no holds. It's like chaos.
Sure.
So
Do whatever you want, boy.
Yeah.
Hey,
just,
home by 1
just
a.m.
don't make a mess, and I don't care.
Let out the dog.
Right. I found a band. Okay, do you guys remember in the '90s there was these weird albums
Way
that
back
came
in
out?
the 90s.
Okay, in the '90s. All right.
I'm starting to feel old now.
I'm sorry.
Way back in the 90s, yes.
There's these weird albums called like Instrumental Magic.
Okay.
And it was like these compilations of, because, then you had to have an actual CD. You had to order these.
Sure.
And it was like Chariots of Fire.
K-Tail presents.
Yeah, just like all these really famous instrumental, 2001, Space Odyssey, all these instrumental songs, right? And one of them was Dueling Banjos. And so the commercial came on and I was like, what the hell was that? I never heard a banjo. I was like 12 years old. Never heard one before. And it was just like this machine gun of notes, just like shit. And I was like, that is not human. And I was able to kind of catch it. And I was like, it's a banjo. And, I asked my dad for Christmas. It was the only thing I asked
He said,
for.
you'll put your eye out, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a Red Rider banjo.
Put your eye out. Yeah.
He'll blow your ears out,
Exactly,
son.
yeah. But like I said, parents are split. It was all chaos. And he was like, I will get you a banjo for Christmas. And he bought me like this horrible, rusted, nasty banjo. He said he went to 3 different pawn shops to try to find one. It was like $100.
Right.
And as soon as I played my first chord on it, I
You
was
ripped
like,
your thumb off.
all right, this is it. This is it.
You knew.
Yeah.
I figured he would have just given you the movie Deliverance and said, here, watch this.
I've seen it. It's great up until a point. It's a good movie.
Squeal like a
yeah, just
pig.
that one little part. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Skip
And I'm
that
going
part,
to
yeah.
add something that I don't even know anything about it, just some family psychology. Your dad looked you in the eyes and said, your mom hated the banjo, right? Sure did. You can have
I
it.
never thought about that. I never thought.
And I want you to take it when you go and stay with her.
You're probably right.
Dr. Robert.
Now it makes sense. I just had a breakthrough.
Oh, that's
I'll have
good.
a breakdown later.
That's
I'll have a
fun.
breakthrough today.
All right, let's
fun.
talk about your
That's
guys'
funny. That is so
original stuff. You have an album out, is that correct?
We have a couple
correct.
albums.
Couple
we have
albums.
one studio album and one live album.
2021, The First Sight.
Yep, it's called First Sight.
First Sight.
Mhm.
And did you guys record that here in town?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
Weights and Measures.
Weights and Measures
Weights
is
and
where we
Measures, sure.
recorded that one over
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
KC.
And so what's the other one? Is it out or you're just releasing
The
it
other
as
one
Was it before then?
No, yes, it was when we first got together. We were
2015?
in the 2015, I think was when that was recorded.
That one, no, I think it was 2016 when it was recorded, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, 2016 was when it was recorded.
And that it
Funny
kind of goes back to
story.
what we were talking about with the venues. I mean, it was at Davies Uptown.
Which-
Rest
yeah.
in peace.
Oh, God.
Not there anymore.
No, that's a loss.
Yeah. And that was, we were playing a gig there, and the other band couldn't make it, so we had to fill extra time. We were a new band at the time, so at the time they were not allowing cover songs at all. I don't think they were licensed for it and that kind of thing. We had we had just started, so we had original songs, but we didn't have that much. We were
only
playing with
had
other
10.
bands.
We
Yeah,
had
like
10
10
songs, and she's like, I need you to cover 3 hours.
Yeah, I need to cover the whole night. So I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
and so we
Can
just
we rotate?
and they had the modern mixer where you can just press record into a USB, and so we were filling time. That's kind of when we started really learning about the improv.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would take these 3 5-minute songs and make them 10 15 minutes, and we really liked what came out of that, so we picked the best 5 or 6 songs. I mean, I think it only has 5 songs, but it's still 55
We
minutes
made
long.
it. We made it through the 3 hours.
we did it. Yeah, we did it.
It was about 10, 15 minutes a song. And that's like he said, where we really started to hone in on, okay, we need to really improv on this. Where are we going with this? And a lot of that improv, like we've been talking about too, is and we'll do it at practice too. It's not all the time, but some of the time it's a follow the leader thing. Like I'll start out with a beat, and then Ben will hear it, and then Ben will pick it up, and then Jeremy will hear it, he'll pick it up, or vice versa, And it's a lot of that improv is follow the leader. It's kind
Are
of
you
cool.
recording, I'm guessing?
Yeah,
when you're
we
doing
record
that? Sure.
rehearsals
So you can
and
kind of go back and
review back, and we record our own shows sometimes, and we have one song that we just have started debuting. Basically, we played it out a couple times, but the main kind of middle section of it is literally straight out of an improvisational piece that we recorded at a show. And I said, let's listen back to this. Listen to this 3 minutes of that
Listen to
jam.
that lightning.
And
Right.
let's make
Exactly.
that we'll put that in one of our songs as a composed
Good
thing.
feedback from the
And
crowd.
Yep, and it's been good. We're kind of in the process now of, I think, trying to introduce another round of new songs because we're kind of, I think, at the beginning maybe of another album cycle. So
Oh, nice.
Hopefully.
Maybe
Yeah, it
towards
is.
the end
It
of
is
the
kind of
year.
interesting. I like doing it that way, where we'll get these songs together. They're not 100%, but then we'll go out and play it a few times.
Test pilot.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, this song is working, and then once we get pretty comfortable with it, like live, then we can go in and start creating like more of a studio version of it.
Yeah, a couple of bands have mentioned that's been kind of their beta test.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like the crowd too has, you might, like you guys were saying, you customize your sound to the mood of what you're doing with people.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, that one song that gets people up off their ass. Let's play that song and see
Yeah.
if it gets up off there.
Yes.
So it's good to have that opportunity, that live beta test going on, because, a lot of times it's the opposite. You're so high on your Kool-Aid. You're like, dude, everyone's going to love this, man. And
Yeah,
when
right,
they hear
right.
it, they're
You're
like,
not
"Oh my
sure."
God."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the crickets, and you're like so disappointed. You're like, well, why did we waste our time? So,
Well, in the venue, I mean,
Yeah.
the venue's changed, so you're going to get different things. I mean, Wynn's not going to be at every gig, so
But she's at the majority of them. She's
So,
a very
yeah,
large
she will
fan
get
of our
people
band.
up on the dance floor. I
Shout
am
out
not
to
kidding
Wynn
you.
Smith, man.
Amen. Love her to death.
the
Yeah.
spinner of Kansas City.
Yes.
Again, we're in the studio today with Tracer Heights. Again, thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Great stuff. And I'm going to let Robert have this next one here.
So
because-
we talked a little bit about how you guys got together. The two of you played,
Mhm.
and
So,
then we
yeah.
brought in.
Ben and I, we're going to start a project, and we just kept saying, we just need to find a drummer. That's the only thing. And then, I immediately knew the first time I played with Josh that there was something there. And so I asked Ben, hey, I found somebody. That's how we.
Talking so much about the Grateful Dead music and that scene of the multiple artists that have sprinkled across the landscape of Jerry's dance, and you guys are a trio.
Right.
Do you ever feel like, God, we need to add a horn, man? What about 3 more people? How about a harmony section? Listen, we need another drums. You guys ever feel like that? Or do you feel like you guys give enough of a wampum with the 3 of you that fills up all the holes?
Well, we can. I mean, as
Yeah.
a trio
Yeah.
for 8 years, we can make it sound,
fill those spaces.
fill those spaces. But it's funny that you mentioned that. We always thought that it might be very cool to bring in a keyboardist
Right on.
to what we're doing. And we have started doing that in the last year. A really talented gentleman by the name of Billy Lowenstein out of Cameron, Missouri.
Okay.
He doesn't play all the shows with us, but a lot of big shows.
Cool.
He will be with us at Briarfest, as a matter of fact. So,
Awesome.
and he's a phenomenal player. I think he just gets us. And the only way that we were going to add somebody to this trio is not only do they like the music we're doing, but do they get what we're trying
Right,
to do?
right.
I'll let Ben take that further.
Yeah, tell us about that. You guys sit in Indian style, meditate about it. Well, how do you get? What's the process?
Well, it's hard to. It's almost just like a feeling. It's like, okay,
Right.
we're all. It's like we can all tell exactly what the end goal
Very
is. It's like, we're playing, but then all of a sudden things start changing and shifting, but we're all changing and shifting together. And it's like we have the same idea of what we want.
You guys are
out of
aware
it.
of each other as you're doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the key with you guys.
And,
Right.
and hearing it and not even
Yeah.
looking at each other, being off into that space. My eyes might be closed, his eyes might be closed, but we can feel when we're about to make a turn. We can feel when something's about to be a climax. We can feel when it's about to be a valley. It's crazy how it
it's
works
like,
like that.
I know when Josh was about to do like a bigger fill. It's like
Right on.
I could hear, there's a ding there. Oh, he did it again. Okay, here we go. And there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, cool.
There it is.
You know,
it's
and
like these
having that
really
same
subtle things.
Having that
there,
confidence also makes you land the song right when you're ending it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have beautiful, oh my God, and it's a crash landing. You're like, shit, the end of that didn't come together.
we have those
But,
too.
We've had those before.
It happens. It
Any
happens.
musician's going to have those.
Well, it's like Hornsby when he joined, Jerry, and it was going to be difficult. I mean, to replace Brent was going to be hard. Period. Right.
Right.
But to know that those ebbs and flows of how that band moves around, right, and of course any of the
Well, like I learned a
special
lot from
feelings that they were having, right? You know, depending on what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know,
I learned a lot musically from them. I mean, that would probably the dead side of things is probably what I would bring to this group. You know, I also like Fish, just like Jeremy and Ben do. They like multiple other musicians as well, too. Obviously, I mean, Ben has an idol out there that people might know.
Yeah, like the Bela Fleck angle.
Bela
we get
Fleck,
that obviously
you know.
with the electric.
So we all
guitar.
kind of bring
Nice.
everything
I thought it was gonna
together.
be
But that's why
Steve Martin.
Well, and that's actually
That's really
one
that's
of his influences.
Yeah.
when I very first started playing. It's funny because I would tell people, "Yeah, have you heard Steve Martin play?" It was like the guy from SNL. I'm like, "Yeah, he is really good. This
Really
was
good.
Yeah,
He's
and
awesome.
This stuff is back in the 70s, you know." And I was like, "You should listen to him play." And I started learning some of the licks that he was doing by watching him play.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing. Nobody believed me. I'm like, "No, Steve Martin's really good." And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, what did he come out?
It was not that long ago. He came out with an album, Steve
Yeah.
Canyon
He
Rangers.
toured for almost 3
Yeah.
years.
And
Yeah.
blew everybody away. And
Yeah,
they were
I
like,
saw-
I had no idea. And I'm
I
like,
saw him in
tried
New
to tell you.
Orleans. He was badass.
Yeah,
oh, did you
he's
really?
awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would have been
So-
awesome.
You know, the thing about Steve Martin is like he's an ultimate entertainer. And like he's like, haven't tried that. I'm going to try it. Yeah.
But my point is like, so the original music with us as a trio really comes together because we all, at least from a jam band perspective, have a different type of influence out there, different groups that we were into. And so we bring that all together into our own original sound. And I'll always brag about it, man. We're one of the
Yeah,
most
and you
unique
should.
bands in town. You will
You-
not
you
find
definitely
anybody in
should.
town that's doing the same thing as us.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is
You
a
guys
mixture.
have great sound. There is no question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was going to say regarding the keyboard player and the other instrumentation. So one of the things we've always liked about this group is, and the way I put it is, we kind of each have our own department, right? There's drums and percussion, there's bass, there's the banjo, which also gets into the territory of covering like electric
Bluegrass
guitar,
picking.
yeah, and bluegrass. But there isn't like, when Ben and I were in a blues band, for example, there were 3 guitar type sound instrumentation in the group. So you'd always have to figure out like, okay, you play up the neck, you play this voicing, we don't really have that. We have free reign in our own space for our part of the frequency spectrum, whatever you want to call it. And so that's why we've always thought keyboards would be the perfect 4th thing to add, because that's another department basically that they
Right,
can
it's not
live in.
overlapping, it's
Yeah.
adding.
Yeah, yeah, and
But not just because of the music, but because it fits you guys.
yeah, and you can
Your-
just
the
you can be more
personality of the band,
creative.
yeah.
It's a matter
actually.
of listening too. There's a lot of critique that came back over the years that was like, you guys are so talented, but it's just, I got all that high end going on and I'm just missing like
There's
that
a lot of
mid
high
range.
end,
And so
yeah.
when we brought in a keyboardist, all of a sudden that mid range started to fill
Was
in.
that just
and,
this year?
It's been about a year.
been
I
about
would
a
say
year now. Yeah, been
Okay.
about a year now we've done it. with
And
him.
we basically just told him he's a fantastic musician. He's a very educated musician. He just can fit right in there. So just anytime
And
you're available,
Cameron's
come
not
play with us.
Quick.
And- yeah.
He's raising
Yeah.
3 kids. He lives out of town in Cameron, has
Yep.
a job, family. We understand that. So he's not going to be at every single show.
Yeah.
That's the best part about the group is we've always still been a trio. We can make that music, but it's that much better when we have Billy Lowenstein on stage.
Billy
Play with
Lowenstein.
Billy
That's
Lowenstein.
just rolls right off your tongue.
Sure
Yes, it does.
He should have a beer named after him.
I've heard people call him Billy
Influences,
Keys.
obviously, we got his, we got Joshua's. Jeremy, what kind of musical influences are you from?
Well, so for me as a bass player, I think all bass though is you got to think of things like Stax Records and Motown, right? So like the James Jamerson sound, the Duck Dunn sound, right? That's
Dunn.
really, even though I'm really interested in experiencing all the improvisational music, like things like Grateful Dead, and you got Phil Lesh and people like that. I've always been drawn to that Motown Stax record kind of groove, to where it's just kind of like this, I don't know, reliable. I almost would call it like a blue collar approach to music. Everybody's kind of in their pocket. And then what I find is I kind of take that as a springboard for exploring the improvisational way out there stuff. So I'm always trying to combine those two things, like a Phil Lesh and a Duck Dunn. So maybe for this song, I might play the same 3 notes for 10 minutes straight, or maybe I'll just be soloing on my own, whenever he's playing rhythm. But those are kind of my.
Are you 4-string or 6?
5-string.
5-string.
Yeah.
Nice.
And like for me, Mount Rushmore is probably like James Jamerson, Duck Dunn, Phil Lesh, and Mike Gordon. That's kind of, so you kind of gives you an idea. Maybe
Outstanding.
I
those
haven't
two
heard
things.
Duck Dunn's name in decades.
I mean, and the thing about Duck Dunn, he's kind of like, if you're a James Jamerson fan, but you're not as good, Duck Dunn's more approachable. Not that he didn't write genius bass lines, they're
Sure.
just more approachable.
Right.
James Jamerson was like a sublime, his own thing,
Yeah.
that you can't just sit down and put the hours in and be. He was a one of a kind.
We have some fantastic bass players in this town.
Boy, do we.
I am telling you, we
They
are.
always have a job, too.
Oh
I've
my
noticed.
gosh, we are so privileged. To
Yeah, like
that.
for me in town, if you want to talk about local, I like Johnny Hamill. To me, Johnny Hamill is probably the best.
Very good.
For me. Alexis Barclay is an influence of mine. Just before I played music, watching him play, like unlike these guys, I started kind of late in life. Like I started in 2010 playing bass. They were playing, as they were kids in the 90s. I wasn't like that. I was more of just a listener and and so I saw a lot of the people we play with play bass before I even played. And so I kind of had to cram and, go into the woodshed
Yeah.
for a couple of years there. The blues band was my first band. It was a great thing to learn the ropes because blues has formulas and keys.
Cliff Moore.
Yep.
Oh, I
yeah,
love
Cliff
Cliff.
Moore.
He's one of our
He
favorites.
is
He's
probably
so cool.
every
He's
note.
pinnacle.
Yeah, every note.
Just got
he
back from
plays-
Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he puts every note right in the right
But
place.
I mean, when it comes to
It's
blues,
so
that
good.
is for
He's
sure.
the top. I would agree there.
James Albright, probably one of my favorites in
Yeah.
town, just because
Or Jimmy Lacey.
Jimmy's gotten to be so
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could go on and on,
Yeah, I
but
know.
yeah.
But
Well, let's keep moving on. Roger, I think, or Roger, Robert,
Call me Ted, please.
Bob.
This
go ahead
is
and pick
Robert
this up.
Bierce here at Kansas City Limits Radio, and we're in the studio here with our good friend Tracer Heights talking to Ben, Joshua, and Jeremy, the trio of psychedelic sound in Kansas City. They've got this light situation. I'm just really excited to go check out at one of their shows. But, one of the things we wanted to talk about, and again, another question we asked the folks that we have the opportunity to interview, and I'll just address this and anyone can take the question. When you're talking about this improvisation, and I'm in a band too, improvisation isn't always structured. So it's a good thing you recorded. But when you guys are talking about your song structure, it's not always so improvisation or not. Is it instrumental? Is it verbal first that turns instrumental? Or is it instrumental that turns verbal?
I'll take this one.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Joe.
Just first, you can add to it, but there's a song, for example, that I wrote that is on our album called Bend Below. And that entire song was written from a drum beat that I fell in love with from Prince, because I'm originally from Minnesota.
Cool.
A song called Cream. And it's just this.
Cream.
And I wrote all the lyrics and I wrote that entire song, then brought it to them, and they added in a melody and everything. So I think it can go any
Wow.
way, really,
cool.
in terms of writing.
It all depends on what happens.
Who drags most the compositions or ideas? Is it you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a tendency to drive a lot of the composing.
does.
Yeah. Like Jeremy's written a song. Joshua's written a couple songs for us. And, me, I just sit and just listen and try to play different melodies and find different chord progressions. Sometimes I'm studying something where, like recently I've been studying some classical chord progressions, like how those work, something called the Neapolitan progression, the Neapolitan chords. And, Jeremy brought in just lyrics. And I think you did have a little bit of a vocal melody.
Mhm.
And that's where I found the key. But then I started putting these different classical compositions behind it. And it turned into like this whole other thing. So it seems to be like our kind of our main somewhat process is we have lyrics and a key. And that's usually how it starts.
Cool.
Who's
then-
putting the lyrics down?
We all do.
All
Well,
of
we've
them?
all written as we've gotten older as a group, but the majority of what we do are songs that Ben wrote years ago. He did as a solo musician, and then brought them to us and allowed us to flesh them out and make them Tracer Heights songs.
I want to pause there for just a second and compliment you guys again. He allowed you guys to hear his old songs and put stuff to them. That is the true definition of a kick-ass dude. Because usually it's the other way around.
Yes, you are correct.
I didn't write that song. I don't even know about it. What are you showing your song for?
Right.
Instead, you guys are like, kick-ass. Let's help this guy's song kick ass. And thank you. We're flattered you're sharing it with us.
Yeah.
Kudos to you guys. 5 different cookies to y'all. Yeah. Okay.
I like to say I'm the most privileged in town because there is never really fights between the three of us, and we all agree as 3 or we don't do it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Who would win?
Well, he's the tallest.
He's the tallest.
Have you ever seen that YouTube video where the drummer's like beating the crud out of the gets in the fight with it? We've had a couple of those moments.
They also Indian leg wrestle, and he's got longer legs.
I like it.
He does.
All
But
right.
I like to say we kind of, we have this treasure trove of material that we haven't even debuted half of it yet. But we always want to take it and put our stamp on it as a 3-piece. And, when you're doing solo, you're a little bit more limited in what you can do. So it's great to go back and revisit him. And sometimes he's even embarrassed. We have to convince him, like, no, that's a good song.
It's a good song, man. What are you talking about?
Down for a reason, man. There's something there.
It can be a challenge for me because of like sometimes Jeremy will start singing it, and I'm like, oh my god, what did I do?
What did I do?
And I have to I have to push past that, and we're like, it's okay. They think it's cool, so I'll just run with
funny.
it,
The guy that's making it's the only one that's doubting it. The other guys are like, "Yeah, go for it. That's great."
It's support, man. It's great to have that.
I can think
That's
of
awesome.
one that it's not even always the lyrics. Sometimes it's the vocal melody. Sometimes it's the structure, and it becomes a totally different song. Like we have one where it's just got all these hooks. It gets stuck in your head, but he was just like, I've never liked the lyrics. I don't want these lyrics, and so I just sat down and rewrote all the lyrics, but I just had to fill in it was already mapped out. It was just different words over those exact same vocal melodies and choruses and
just
hooks.
a different way to get there.
That's awesome. You guys can be like that to each other. That's
Again,
kick-ass.
guys, we appreciate you being here. Tracer Heights, just want everybody to know that Tracer Heights can be found on the web at tracerheights.com. You can find them on Facebook at Tracer Heights and Instagram at Tracer Heights. And then whatever the fuck this is, I'm not sure.
It's Bandcamp. It's actually where people buy our album.
It's the most important. Here, let me redo that voiceover. We'll edit that part out.
And you can Bandcamp.
And you can download all their music at tracerheights.bandcamp.com.
That is correct.
There it is.
And we'll have some samples of that music. Now, your next gig you got coming up, I'm pretty excited about.
Warwick.
Briarfest,
Briarfest.
September 9th.
When this one
yes.
actually, but it's
you're right.
Briarfest.
We can cut that out.
We're excited about it too because we have wanted to for quite a while, and we've still been, putting stuff together. Of course, we play a lot of places, but we don't play a lot of festivals, and we're made for a festival.
Yes.
That's the type of band
I saw
we
you
are.
outside in that atmosphere. That's why I thought of you guys.
Yeah, it's. I think that it's one that I'm very excited about, just for the fact that we can be outside and we can be in an atmosphere that, like, what this band is really truly made to do.
Well, we're super excited to have you. And for those of you at home that don't know what Briarfest is, it's a 2-day free music festival, September 8th and 9th at Mackin Park in North Kansas City. It's free to attend. Bring your blankets, your chairs. 26 bands, 2 stages, a food court, a beer forest, an art wine oasis, hot air balloon rides, and this wonderful band, Tracer Heights, is going to take the stage about, 6 o'clock?
Well, I'll give you the rundown.
Here's the lineup of the festival for Briarfest.
Friday, September 8th, we have Levittown opening the show for us. Jack Arute, actually a recipient of Midwest Music Foundation, and he did whatever he could to get into this show, I'm going to tell you. Then the Vincents come on stage, followed by Pop Skull Rebels, my good friends with Oscar Polk and the All-Stars, Carl Warden, and Cherry Bomb to end the night on Friday. And this again is the main stage. Saturday, September 9th, we get started at noon, and that will be Similar Animal, Alex Arbamovitz, and his
Kansas City Swing Jazz Band.
That's a mouthful.
I've seen them. They're great.
He's
And
awesome.
They are, and they're playing this weekend, in fact. Then we have Stranded in the City, Brooke Kafka and Friends, the Free Rent Band. Our good friend Robert will be headlining that. And then to be followed by you guys, Tracer Heights, Old Number 5, and then finishing the night out Saturday is 4 Fried Chickens and a Coke. And Robert, you have more of a knowledge of the beer garden bar.
Yeah, we've got School of Rock has always helped us out over there. We've got Pathfinder. We've got the Newland Band. We've got Jacqueline Bell over there. We've got a 3-piece called Jazz for Good. We've got another ensemble that we just booked a couple of weeks ago. Their names are Michael Kelly and his Twister. And he's just a single guy. He's coming up from Arkansas. We're going to have to put him up for the night.
What's the Twister?
It's just him and his looper, I think. He's a one-man band.
That's
these
songs we're talking
might have
about.
them twist
They started
you.
out. Choice.
Nice.
Anyway, it's going to be 2 days of music. Proceeds benefit Synergy Services and Midwest Music Foundation, North Kansas City Parks. And this is Briarfest 8. And I really appreciate you guys coming and being a part of it. I appreciate Kansas City Limits and J.E. Cornwell for helping us out with all the lineup. My
privilege.
He kind of took most of that off my plate this year, putting the festival together, and really appreciate him.
Yeah, you know what it's like producing shows and playing shows. It gets to be a lot.
a little tiring.
It's always great
A
to have
little
help.
bit.
It's a whole bunch.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch.
I'm fortunate to have what I would consider, friends in this town that play a lot of great music, and to be able to call them up and say, "Hey, you're not going to be making a whole lot of money here," and that's not what it's about.
Exactly, yeah.
We do have 2 foundations and a great charity at North Kansas City Park and Rec. But Midwest Music Foundation, Rhonda Lynn over there, they do some great work.
That's the reason why we chose to do this.
They are so
Awesome.
good at what they
Yeah.
and Synergy, which Robert's had for many years. What
Helping
they
the
do,
homeless.
That's right. It's
Domestic
just incredible.
issues.
That's great. That's great.
So listen, again, guys, we appreciate you guys coming in.
Find this podcast and more at Kansas City Limits TV. Thanks again for joining us. Remember, be good to yourself, be good to others, and be good to musicians. We'll see you next time.
Amen.
Thank you.
An angel with a broken wing flies in a circle with a knife on a string, cuts a hole in the earth. Release the bees with the heads of a dog to engulf the atmosphere. For no other reason than to block out the sun for everyone seeing to hear. There's a farmer tilling an empty field for the worms who refuse to yield. It's a flying fish with burned feathers and a nail for a beak. They dig a trench to the pond from a creek. The farmer looked down and he saw the intimate connection right next to his reflection. In an alleyway, there's a cat and mouse arguing about God and the devil, and heaven and hell. Who to keep secret and who to tell, who to deceive and who to believe, before they make the connection of immaculate conception. They look the other direction.
Angel with a broken wing flies in a circle with a knife on a string, cuts a hole in the earth. Release the bees with the heads of the dog to engulf the atmosphere, for no other reason than to block out the sun for everyone to see and to hear.
In a diner, there's people drinking mud through a straw, taking each other's eyes out with their own claw. There's no black and white, just a thin sheen of gray. When their face melt on toast, looked out of the window to say, duck down through a house that sank in the ground, while fingers fall off and crawl on the floor like maggots on a guitar. And they belt out a lonely tune to mourn the family that's stuck on tape somewhere. And the screaming chorus rang out.
Angel with a broken wing flies in a circle with a knife on a string, cuts a hole in the earth. Release the bees with the heads of the dogs to engulf the atmosphere, for no other reason than to block out the sun for everyone to see and to hear. Angel